So that was our intro, folks. This is Pizza. This is Pizza and Parsecs. I'm Dave.
I'm Olivia.
And this is our little podcast that we decided to start. While we were trying to come up with the intro, she got exceedingly distracted and very flustered with these poker chips that I keep on my desk because I don't have a fidget spinner.
Thank God.
At any rate, so once again, this is Pizza and Parsecs. We are engaged to be married.
Yeah, we are.
And we both love all things from nerd culture. We're big geeks.
Huge geeks.
Love DC, Marvel, comics, Star Wars. I love Trek. And we both like movies. We both love just general adventures. And this is a podcast where we would love to share those with you. And mostly just share it with each other. So...
That was a good intro, babe.
Thanks, babe.
How are those people on the internet?
There's nothing wrong with being those people.
No, there's just something wrong with being those people.
I enjoy being those people, though.
Okay.
So, with our intro out of the way, I'm gonna hand it over to Liv here to talk a little bit about, give you a little bit of a backstory, an origin story, a year one, if you will.
We're not at year one yet.
Year one is about the first year.
Oh, okay. So I'm stretching. I'm a dancer. Oh, you want me to go now?
Sure.
We met on the internet. It was dope.
That's what I say.
It needed to be said. Well, what would you like me to say? We met on the internet.
It was dope.
It was exactly. No, it's been really awesome. We were on Bumble, which was an awesome site because I got to be the boss. I got to be in charge. And yeah, we started. You were like the first person I swiped on and actually sent a message to.
I cannot say the same, and I'm sorry.
That's okay. I don't hold any grudges towards that at all. At all.
Online dating is a minefield.
It is a minefield. And
occasionally you find someone who is the bomb.
Like you?
Like you.
Aw.
That was the joke. Get it?
Yeah. Minefield.
Minefield bombs.
It did take me a second to catch on. Sorry. Yeah. And then we started talking. We talked for like 2 weeks because I was a chicken. And then we almost met up, and then I had to cancel. And then we actually met up. We sat at the coffee shop for like, 2 hours? 3 hours?
Yeah. That sounds right.
And I went to work. And I was actually wearing this sweater.
You can't see it, but she's actually wearing the exact same sweater as our very first date.
Yep. I can't see what I'm doing. Hiding. Anyway, and then shortly after that, you asked me if you could see me again. And I was like, yes, but I work a crazy work schedule. So you met me at a pizza place, right?
It was a pizza and wings place.
Yeah, and you didn't eat, but I did.
No, because I'm a runner, and
I'm not.
I run pretty much every day before I go into work. I work a regular 9 to 5.
Normal people job.
And
I don't.
She didn't get off until like 9, and that's like it's rapidly approaching my bedtime. But it's like, this girl's really cool, and I want to make sure I'm making a good impression. So I'm gonna do my best to power through this. And we met up at that wing place.
It's not there anymore. It's really sad.
It wasn't exactly a prime location.
No, it wasn't actually like the best place in the world, but it was the only place open. And then we had our first fancy date. And then I saw you that day, the next day, and then the next day, back to back to back, and yeah.
It's just been a nonstop thrill ride ever since.
Yeah.
Fast forward to last November.
No, we have to make it known that I said I love you first.
Fine.
It was after Six Flags. And that was about a month after we started dating. It was about almost a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I loved you. And I knew at that point I wanted to spend my life with you. So I said I loved you first. So, ladies, you can say I love you first. It's fine.
I had this whole plan worked out in my head.
I know.
For that day.
I felt so bad.
Like she said, we were at Six Flags, and like, you know, like the little lifts that they have going across the park, and I was like, that'd be like the perfect place to do that, you know. It's secluded, romantic. We're going all over the roller coasters and everything, and so I'm hustling around everywhere trying to find a place where we can get on one of these, and one after the other, they were closed, and they were all closed.
Yep.
It was shut down.
It was because of the like torrential downpour that happened no more than like 45 minutes or so prior to that. I don't think they had been open all day because I didn't really see any going across. But
weather thwarted my plans.
It's okay. It was meant for me to say it first. Fast forward to November.
So eventually I come to a point where I started making a plan. And
which consisted of, hey, you want to just go into this ring store real quick?
Yeah,
we were on a date. Like, let's go in here.
We were at Nuke's, and right next to Nuke's there's a jewelry store.
Or some place.
And then after Nuke's we just walk outside, and I asked her, hey, want to go look at rings? And she's like, hell yeah, let's do it.
Kind of find out, tried like one ring on, loved it, then tried other ones on for fun. But the first one I tried on was the one I loved. Yeah.
And that's pretty much identical to the one that you got, too.
Yes. The one I have is a little bigger.
Couldn't be the exact same. I had to take some creative liberties with it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to say it's a lot bigger than the one I tried on.
So, then we both asked her parents about a week or so before I actually...
6 days.
6 days before I actually popped the question. We both asked her parents together as a team, as a single unit.
I didn't say anything. You said all the things. But yes, we were together as a team.
Yes, we were.
Yeah.
And your parents were like trying to go to bed, and I was like, no, we don't have to do it. And you're like, no, I am getting them out here.
Well, and I said it very nicely to them. I was like, hey, David has a question to ask you guys, but if you guys are, going to bed, it's okay. And they knew at that moment what you were going to do, and they wanted to give you their answer because they love you and they're excited for us.
I'm saying you were that way with me when I said, no, don't worry about it if they're going to bed.
I was like, no, I'm going to get them because I know what this asking them the question means because I also knew that you were the type of person who likes to get stuff done. So I knew in my head, I'm like, well, if he asks, then I could probably foresee an engagement between now and I was thinking New Year's. Sure enough, it was 6 days later. Did not expect that.
Yes. And for all my Trek nerds out there, I plotted course and we got engaged.
Yeah, we did. The most epic engagement ever.
It was simple, at home. Nobody else was around. It was outside of my deck fireplace.
Best.
It was nice.
No pressure.
She said yes, for the record.
I just talked about the ring.
Well, maybe they thought you just like kept it as a consolation prize. Like, how dare you inconvenience me with this question?
No, I said yes. I said, oh my goodness, you're doing this now, and then I said absolutely yes. That's the only two. Those are the only two things I remember saying. I don't remember anything else.
So ever since then, we have been on this journey to plan out a wedding,
Yes.
which is going to be later this year.
Yes.
And let me tell you, it has gone so smoothly.
Yeah, I don't know what these people are talking about. Weddings are stressful. I mean, they kind of are stressful, but like with my job because we have recitals and stuff. So like Nutcracker time is a little stressful, trying to wedding plan and do Nutcracker. But all is fine now. Well, these past 2 weeks have been interesting. But all's good now.
Wedding planning is one of the easiest things that I've got going on right now, so it's been it's been fun.
It is on the list of things that I'm doing. It is the easiest. Yeah. That is all I have. I'm agreeing.
So throughout this process, we'll probably talk a little bit more about our wedding and the coming episodes.
Yes.
But for now, we're gonna wrap things up with our story here.
Yeah.
And go ahead and dive into a topic.
Yay! Topic.
So, like I said earlier, one of the things that we both love is movies, and today we saw a movie, did we not?
We saw Old Men.
Old Men. We saw Old Men, and they were old, and
men.
And they were men.
We saw the movie Old Men. No, we saw Little Women.
We saw Little Women. Was Old Men your antithesis of Little Women?
Yes.
Wouldn't it be big men?
No, I'm thinking of like little as in young.
Okay, gotcha.
They're not physically little. They're just younger.
Well, it depends on how big the screen is that you watch it on. I mean, they could be like really little if you're like trying to watch it on a phone. Like,
I mean, if we're gonna get super technical,
micro
yes.
women.
If we're gonna get super technical, yes. I was just thinking of anyway. Little Women.
So we went to go see Little Women, and in case you haven't heard about this is the film based on the book, obviously, but it was written for the screen and directed by Greta Gerwig, who had her directorial breakout hit with Lady Bird. And because I watched and really enjoyed Lady Bird, that kind of gave me a little bit of insight into the kind of film that this was going to be. And going into the film, I wrote down a thought, and I was like, I'm expecting a well-executed coming-of-age developmental story around female protagonists. And
that's what you got.
That's exactly what I got.
That is exactly what you got. I'm glad you expected that. Did it exceed your expectations?
So, yes. And I'll start with spoiler-free first, and then we can dive into spoilers.
Oh, okay.
Even though it's based off a book.
Yeah, this is the 7th movie that has been made on Little Women. Yes, I researched that already. Ha ha ha. This is since the first release of the book in who knows how long ago. I don't know how long ago. This is the 7th movie. So if you haven't seen or read the book, what school did you go to? Because I had to read it in school.
I did not have to read it. Let me
preface. I had to read it while I was home in my homeschool group.
Oh yeah.
In school with my homeschool group.
So, one thing that I liked was one of the main protagonists was, and I cannot pronounce this right, but it's Saoirse Ronan, who was also the lead in Lady Bird. And I feel like she plays this role just as well as she did her role in Lady Bird. among the other stars, we've got Emma Watson and Laura Dern. When she popped up on the screen, I got the biggest smile on my face.
Yeah.
Like, perked up in my chair, and I was just so stoked that she was in this. And yeah, so one thing for me that going into more plot points here and actual storyline is that, again, Greta Gerwig is a masterful storyteller, and she does this in a very interesting way. So in the movie, it traverses two timelines, essentially, and it goes back and forth between the two. But it does it in such a way that it's not as confusing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, the timeline that it traverses isn't really even that long, like maybe a couple years.
Yeah, it's a 7. From the very beginning of the movie, we get, kind of setting the scene of where they're at currently. And then it goes back 7 years prior to that, and then builds and gives you kind of what happened through those 7 years throughout the movie. It also does that in the book. I don't know why I said book like that. That was really awkward. Book.
I did not read the book, but I did watch the movie as we are talking about it right now.
You watched it?
I watched it.
Whoa.
Yes. So, again, it's traversing these timelines, and I thought that it was executed very well in that one thing that I was kind of worried about going into it, so one of the concerns I had going into it was that it was just going to be like another Jane Austen type, very dry feeling movie. And that's not a thing on Jane Austen movies or books.
No, that is the thing towards Jane Austen movies. No one's done them justice. It's fine. You can say that. Becoming Jane, I'm coming for you. The movie.
So, I thought that what it did, like the emotional notes that it hit, was executed very well. And it had a very unique way of sucking you in to each of the characters, because I think Saoirse Ronan's character, Jo March, is the lead in this, but I think all of the Little Women in it are leads in their own way too, because it doesn't just focus on one of them, and you get a chance to know and grow with each of these characters as they go through these hardships and periods of emotional turmoil, heartache, and it's easy to feel for them in the way that it's presented.
Yeah. I feel the same way about the movie in general. You stole every point that I had about the movie in general. No, I think they did a really good job of depicting the book itself, and as far as like character building and even down to like the little personality traits that each of the actresses took to build their character. It was really nice to kind of see that breath of fresh air on such an iconic piece of literature. I can be educated, I promise. You just said everything that I would have said about the movie as like a overarching, non-specific.
So, one thing that I wanted to talk about really, really briefly, and so this movie, like I said earlier, it has a way of reining you in and keeping you engaged in the movie. And there was only one point in this movie where I got disengaged.
Was it when the person had the flashlight and was acting like doofus?
No. So, not.
I wanted to turn around and tell him to shut it up and shut it off.
We had some interesting experiences in the theater. not inconsiderate moviegoers.
Yes.
No, but there's an actual point in the movie,
Okay.
like with what was presented that took me out.
Okay.
And it was when their father came home, played by Bob Odenkirk. And the only reason why that took me out of it is because I've recently been watching. I've been blowing through the Better Call Saul series.
Okay.
And I saw him. I was like, "What's Saul doing here?"
Oh,
And
so it wasn't like a
No.
movie.
no,
The like overall like cinema
cinematography.
that one took you out. It was you saw this actor and was like, oh, I know you. Okay, I could see that.
And in the same way, like if I just watched Jurassic Park, and then
Right.
I saw Laura Dern, and in my head I'm like, nee, 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 nee.
Okay, I understand that. I can get you. I can get that.
And so that was completely on me. There's nothing against the movie. I just
Gotcha.
thought that was funny.
I thought of he's in some commercial.
Which commercial?
I don't remember what commercial he's in. But he's a part of some kind of commercial or something. I don't think it's like a credit card commercial. Maybe it is a credit card commercial. He was a part of some commercial, I swear. And I immediately thought of him in a commercial. But, that's just me.
So I think earlier you were telling me you had some things that you wanted to say about Emma Stone, or not Emma Stone, Emma Watson. Excuse me.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, one before I forget, because we are also going to talk about my favorite character, because you immediately
yes.
thought that Jo would be my favorite character, which typically her kind of character in movies, being that she's a little bit more of the like free spirited, does her own, like goes on her own path, that would typically be my favorite character. But I remember reading it and thinking that Amy and Beth were always my favorite characters in this. Amy being the kind of like ditzier, blonde, kind of
Prissy, high fashion,
high maintenance type.
Yeah.
But when I read this book and kind of dove deeper into like each character, I didn't look at them as like personality types. I kind of looked at how do they attack life. So you've got Meg, who is the older sister. She's like that older one who's setting kind of the groundwork for her siblings and chooses love. She doesn't choose money. She doesn't choose fame. She doesn't choose. She has these options of being an actress. She has this option of marrying rich, but she chooses love. You have Jo, who is like, I choose to go after freedom. So opposed to love, fame, or money, she chooses to go for her freedom. And then, spoiler alert, she chooses love at the end. But she needs to experience life. Amy's the type of person who chooses kind of like that adventurous, always feels second best, but still chooses kind of what she wants at the end. Does that make sense? Like, she chose to love even though she felt second best, and she chose to pursue after her dreams even though her aunt originally wanted her to go to France to just meet this boy and to fall in love with this boy. She still was like, my painting is also coming first. Like, she put her aunt in line at the very beginning, was like, and finish my painting classes. So she's very headstrong on going after her dreams and seeing the flourishing of like wanting to be a painter, even though she almost gave up. So that's one of the reasons why I really liked Amy, is because even though she has all these opportunities next to her, she chose what her heart wants. And then you have Beth, who's like
dead
at the end, but she's kind of this neutral character that speaks wisdom into all three of her sisters. Like, she doesn't have very many lines, she doesn't speak a whole lot, but when she does, it's this kind of like neutralizing, just, oh yes, you're right, we needed to think about that.
She's the Silent Bob of Little Women.
Yeah. Sure. So that's why I like Amy and Beth, is like this neutral character, and then you've got this character who has, she's a beautiful character. You know, they got a very beautiful actress to play her. She's also going to be in Black Widow. I did look at that.
Florence Pugh.
Yeah. Beautiful actress. Always, you know, feeling like middle child syndrome, but still pursues after her dreams of being, you know, eventually being a wife, of being a painter, and being successful in that. So that's why I always have liked Amy and Beth. Joe's dope too, but she's a little too wild for me.
A little too wild for you.
She's a little too wild. And then Meg is just... So that leads me into my Emma Watson comments. Hold on.
I'm really surprised to hear this because, you know, so we're on the tails of watching 2 of your favorite movies.
Yes. Where my favorite characters are the most headstrong characters.
And wild.
Yes.
Wild might not be the word, but untamed.
Yes. And, you know, like, in my mind, like, Amy and Beth were the 2 that were, the most untamed. Like, Jo was bound by her writing. She couldn't see herself loving outside of her writing because that's what she wanted to do. Meg was, you know, bound by her desire to be a wife and love first. Then you have Amy and Beth, who both kind of just took life by their reins and, like, went with it. Like, Amy was like, yeah, I'm going to go to France, and I'm going to learn to paint, and I'm going to hang out with my aunt, and then I'm going to happen to find out that the person I've loved my whole life but never thought I could obtain actually loves me too. Like, that's a little more on the wild side for me. Like,
I mean, that's what you get when you hang out with Meryl Streep in Europe.
Also loved the fact that she played Aunt March. Like, applaud. Like, could not have picked a better actress. But that leads me to my comments about Emma Watson. I was a little shocked that she played Meg and not Jo. I'm glad that this woman, I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name, played Jo. I thought she did a fantastic job, and I think Emma Watson did do a very fine job at Meg. But knowing that Emma Watson only plays characters that are progressively, like, pushing women as a feminist, and women who are able to stand on their own 2 feet. This is her words from an interview before she took Belle. She took the role of Belle. She always wanted to play a character that kind of could stand on her own 2 feet, that kind of just reshaped how we view women, and then she played Meg. Every time I say Meg, I think of Family Guy.
I think of Hercules.
Oh, okay.
Megara.
Yeah. Just keep thinking about it.
Shut up, Meg.
Exactly. And, like, there's nothing wrong with Meg March. Like, she plays a character that chooses love. But we see her break down so many times because of money and wealth and society. And I'm like, Emma Watson, why did we play this character? Like, I'd love to hear Emma Watson I would love to see her interview on why she chose to play Meg. And why she, maybe she didn't choose it. Maybe that was the role that was handed to her. But why she agreed to play Meg.
She does kind of, like, in this role, she really does sort of conform to expectations.
Yes. Which is against Emma Watson's character.
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, we look back at her history. We have Hermione, who can stand on her own 2 feet, go-getter, pushing forward.
Ravenclaw.
Yes, exactly. A Ravenclaw in the Gryffindor dormitory. Then we have, after that, Perks of being a wallflower, plays this very, this is who I am, this is who I'm going to be, this is how I'm going to live. I'm a wallflower, but I'm progressive in that. We see her then move on to The Circle, which, while is a crap movie, still has this woman who is progressive and building herself up into, society and tries to become, the person she wants to be. While that means conforming to internet social media, she still at the end of the day stands up for herself and becomes the person she wants to be. We see her playing as Belle, who chooses the Beast after being her own independent person, and then we have her as Meg. And it's kind of like, really confused. I thought she would have played a better, like, Beth or Jo opposed to a Meg.
Yeah, it was interesting because her character in that way was flawed, and it's interesting to see Emma Watson in that kind of a flawed character.
Yes, in a flaw in. I don't want to bash her character's character, like who Meg is, because in the book that's who Meg is. But I just find it very interesting that Emma Watson chose to accept this role with someone who's got a very skewed mindset of society. There, I said it. I thought it was a very good movie, though. I really enjoyed the movie. I was just very intrigued by Emma Watson's decisions. I also was not... If you're gonna pick an English woman to play an American, like Northern American speaking character, Emma Watson's not your actress because her American accent is really bad. It's really, really bad. She cannot hide it very well. Just look at all 3 movies where she plays an American. Perks of Being a Wallflower, not good accent. Circle, not good accent. This, not good accent. But I could say the same about Ruby Rose. Like, she cannot do an American accent for more than 5 seconds before you're like, you're Australian. It's truth. How many times in Batwoman do I see them like, and there's her real voice. And there's your real voice.
I feel like you have a detector for it. Like,
what happens when you travel the world?
So fancy. You really are an Amy.
You know. I'd rather be an Amy than a Meg.
There's other options.
I mean, at the end of the day, though, like, Amy humbly lives a more extravagant lifestyle. It's not that she, like, boasts and flaunts it. She is actually more of a humble, I live a rich life, but I don't sit here and, like, boast about it.
Except the guy she's marrying is garbage.
Okay, yes. He is not a great guy. And I did not like that they depict him as, like, kind of a wuss. I did not like that. Yes, he's supposed to, like, stumble after Joe rejects him, and he's, like, you know, a partier. But they picked this guy who is kind of, like...
He was not likable.
No, and he was kind of like a Ron Weasley in a way, or he's kind of like a wuss.
Yeah, I could see that. It's... I didn't like him at the beginning of the film either.
I didn't like him at all. I think he could have picked a different actor.
It could be an actor. I mean, with what was presented in front of me.
Yes.
With the material given, I was not a fan of that character.
I also want to point out, they did a fantastic job of, because there was a 7-year gap between, like, the very beginning and where they started, and then they built through, they did a great job of making them look 7 years younger in age. Except for him.
He did look the same.
He looked like a child the whole time, and everyone else looked older. Like, I didn't notice it until we saw Florence Pugh's character kind of start to come of age, and we saw her painting, and we kind of looked back on her life, and then, like, you could tell they were able to make her look older. It was really, really, really well done.
Well, so here's an interesting thought. At least I think it's interesting.
Probably is.
So, Laurie is his name, right? Laurie?
Yeah.
Laurie. Laurie's the guy that she ends up marrying. And to your point, he does look the same pretty much throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
What if that was a stylistic choice, a conscious stylistic choice? Because before he gets married, like he was already married, and he reveals his emotions and shows his true colors to Joe, and starts talking about like, I still got this thing for you. I will always love you.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting. And now that you mention him looking the same throughout the movie, I think it makes sense, because that part of him hasn't changed. He's
Right.
like emotionally,
Still the same
he's still stunted
Yeah.
and caught in that that period of his life where he was so infatuated with Joe.
Right. But I think it would have been nice to see him age, because we didn't see Beth age. Beth didn't really change who she was, or her structure didn't really change. We saw her become sick. We saw her kind of wither in that area. But I think if Laurie had kept aging in a way, and we kept that, I think more people would have noticed Beth not aging if they had made Laurie age. Because that was an undertone that I picked up once I saw that, okay, this person looks older, Emma Watson's character is looking older, they all are looking older. I mean, even the parents, Marmee, is what they call her mom, even she, like, you could tell the aging, and the nanny that was there, you could see that they were quote-unquote aging, but Beth didn't. Beth just declined in health. I think that was, if I wasn't looking for that, I would have missed it, because I was so fixated on the fact that Laurie looked the same age. But I do agree with you. I think that is a good point. I just would have liked to see him grow up a little bit, even if it was in a negative way. Maybe a little bit more wrinkles, like he had been partying too much, and Joe's rejection kind of negatively impacted him, and then when he became, when he fell in love with Amy, that kind of made him a little bit more youth. I don't know. I'm not a critic.
You don't have to be.
I just noticed
we're not critics. We don't know much about anything.
Yeah.
Really, we're just talking about what we think of it. One other thing, talking about the transitions between, traversing from the young to the old, throughout the movie. I thought it was really cool, and you tell me, I'm not sure if I'm crazy and I'm the only one that picked up on this, or if it was even something to be picked up on, or if I'm just making stuff up. But Saoirse Ronan's character, Joe, as we're getting towards like the third act, when she's her oldest, she looks the most like Laura Dern, too.
Yes.
And I thought they did her up very well for that.
Yeah.
That was, I just wanted to point that out, because I thought that was really, really cool.
Oh yeah, I thought that was really cool too. And I did notice that. I noticed a lot of the just choice of coloring throughout the movie too, but you could tell that Joe has that natural instinct inside of her to care for others, because while Meg was the first one to return home when they found out Beth was sick, that's because she was right down the road,
And she has no money.
And she doesn't have any money, so she has to live really close, just in case. But Joe, right then and there was there, got on the next train, got there, and became Beth's caregiver, where we see, throughout the movie, Marmee is the caregiver to these kids because her husband is off at war, and then when her husband returns injured, she immediately becomes his caregiver. So, that was a good observation.
So, one of the thematic elements of this movie is, you always come back to your passions at some point, even whether you know you're going to or not. Joe's character drops writing at one point in this movie
And
completely.
burns her stuff.
Like,
Spoiler.
burns her stuff up. I'd imagine like her character thought it was some sort of cathartic.
It was part of her grieving process.
Yeah, to achieve that catharsis, and she ends up coming back to it anyway.
Yeah.
So, I kind of wanted to transition this conversation into: is there anything like throughout your life that like anything that you were passionate about that you dropped in the past and then eventually came back to, and what that process looked like for you?
I mean, I've done it twice with dance. I dropped it and was like, I'm over it, I'm done. Once was, I did a little bit of like, work here and there between college and moving to Houston, but I was like, I'll just be a choreographer, it's fine. And then I moved to Houston. And then I did it once when I moved back to Houston. We met towards the upward incline of kind of that process of getting back into it, because I hadn't fully decided I was going to dance with the company I dance with now until after I had met you. And you were a huge part of that process, surprisingly enough. I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but seeing your passions about running and how much you had always, like, even at the very beginning, like, you continued to encourage me on, like, my choreography, and when I was like, I think I kind of want to dance again. We'd only been dating for, I think it was, like, a month and a half. I was like, I really think I want to dance again. You were like, then do it. Let's go. Like, you know, you never once sat back, because I knew very quickly, it wasn't like the first day, but I knew very quickly I was going to spend the rest of my life with you. And I didn't want to add anything to my already crazy schedule, because we work opposite schedules. But in my heart, I was like, I'm ready to dance again. I want to get back out there. Have I hair in my mouth? Might be cat hair. I cannot tell. And when I presented you with this information, I was like, I think I want to dance again, but that would require me being in Atlanta on Saturdays, which was one of our only few days that we both had off. It was not a hesitation of like, well, when we'll see each other. It was like, okay, let's do it. I support you in this. Let's do it. And that outside just kind of affirmation to someone that I just, kind of just met, was, in the process of doing life with. It was that answer your question? The first time I was just like, I'm just going to get back on the horse and I'm going to go. I wanted out of Georgia. Not because I hate Georgia, because I'd always wanted to move away. I'd always wanted to either go to college somewhere else or move to a different city and dance in a different city. And I blew my knee out and I was finally healing, and I was like, all right, I'm going to Houston because there's a company out there that surprisingly enough hired me after I looked like a fool in the audition, which was bad. That audition was bad. But yeah, you had a lot to do with wanting to get back into the dance world, because I had taken that year off after moving back because I was like, I hate dance. That was because my experience in Houston was what it was. Yes. What about
Interesting.
you? What about you?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome. I thought that'd be a little fun tangent that we could both go on.
Yeah.
So I'll talk about two things. Number one is going to be running. Mm-hmm. So I ran in college, and when I got out of college, I completely dropped it for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Just to sort of recover, reset, do a reset basically. And during that time, I was living in a city where I knew absolutely no one at all. I had no hobbies. I was working close to 70 hours a week. Very high stress job right out of college. At the time, one of my clients was my client was in the banking industry, so it was very serious and uptight type environment, shall we say? And at
I love my job.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I love my job. Okay, continue.
And one of the things that running did for me, running does a lot of things for me. Fitness in general does a lot of things for me. Number one is it helps me to give me that time away from myself, almost.
Yeah.
It allows me to process things
Yeah.
without distractions, because when you're just sitting at home, at the time for me, it was either, play video games, watch TV, drink, or go to bed. Those are my options pretty much. And after a while of doing that, I eventually said, enough is enough. And I started running again, or trying to at least. But I just started to sort of get back into it. And then I fell out of it again. And then I got really into it. I sort of had a rebirth with it, if you will. DC comic fans out there will get that. But I had a rebirth with it when I moved down to South Florida. And which it's one heck of a place to start back up running again.
Hot place.
It's a very hot place, but it was
It's like Houston. Hot.
It was really hot. It was a concrete jungle, but it really sort of gave me a new perspective, helped me get a new perspective. Running for me is also a very spiritual experience as well. When I run, I feel like it's a way for me to have conversations with God and celebrating this gift that He's given me, the ability to run. So yeah, that's a big one for sure. And the other one is actually comics. Comics are another thing that I'm passionate about.
Comics.
And
of course, I get you to say 2 comics. Well, it's not comics.
I have you to thank for this one, actually.
What'd I do?
So, one of my good friends, JR, actually really got me into comics a number of years ago. And for the past year and a half or so, I haven't read any comics at all. Even though I love reading comics. And then you got me the Neon Genesis manga.
Well, you picked it out. But yeah, I got it for your birthday.
And I've been really enjoying reading that and getting back into it.
And I got you the same one for Christmas because I couldn't remember.
Hey, you got me that one just in case this one breaks down.
No, we're going to return it. I'll get you another one. I got you other stuff too, though. I got you 2 other books.
You did.
One that you didn't have, but it's not a comic. But anyway.
At any rate, so that's another one that I have you to thank for. Got a lot to be grateful for with you in general.
Same with you.
But yeah, so those are my two passion points that I inadvertently or intentionally or unintentionally gave up and ended up coming back to just because it's one of those things I love.
Yeah. Well, and if we're going off of, if we're doing 2, art is something, I also have enjoyed because I haven't done that in a long time. And for your birthday, I made you a birthday card and I bought watercolor markers and made you this like birthday card. And then for Christmas, you got me some awesome Copic markers. So then I got to make you all these really cool. I've made you 2 pieces so far. I'm working on another one. I just like to color. But I haven't done that in a long time, and I did that in like high school and in college, and I just draw for fun, and now I feel like I have more to do. I guess that's another reason why I like Amy, is because she's an artist. Like, they all have like art in their own way. Like, you've got Joe who writes, you've got Meg who acts, you've got Amy who
dies.
Amy doesn't die.
Oh,
Beth
sorry,
dies.
Beth dies.
Beth plays the piano. They all have different art forms, but the one that I connect to the most, because none of them are dancers. They all dance, but none of them are dancers. Is Amy, because of the art she does. I don't paint, but I like to. Well, I'm painting Gabe a phone case tomorrow. It'll be fun.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you're incredibly talented,
Well,
and your
thank
gifts
you.
should be celebrated.
Same with you. You have gifts.
Aw.
It's all computer stuff that I don't understand.
Yes, I work in IT, or as anybody over the age of 50 calls it, he works with computers.
Well, and you also do your 3D printing, and that's super cool, and you try to show me it on the computers, and I don't understand anything except I just smile and like, the end result looks super dope. But I do not understand what you're telling me. Like when you're doing your helmet and you're like telling me about the gaps in between, I was like, I really don't understand this, but it's super cool.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. It's interesting. I just don't understand.
Well, we can have an episode dedicated to that.
Okay. I need a cup of coffee for that first.
we might lose all of our listener.
Just that one person who listens.
So at any rate, I think that kind of wraps things up for today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this has been the very first episode of Pizza and Parsecs. Want to thank you for joining us.
That one person. Hi, Mom.
Our listener is so proud, and dinner will be ready at 7.
Oh, man.
So thanks again for joining us. I'm Dave.
I'm Olivia.
And tune in next time, folks. Thank you.
Bye.